in the deepest reaches of the velvet void, where light itself has long been swallowed by distance, a silent scream tears through the fabric of the night. It is not a sound that travels through air, for there is no air here, only the freezing, empty expanse of the intergalactic deep. It is a tremor in the very geometry of existence, a shiver running through the spine of the cosmos itself, born from violence beyond comprehension. Two ancient, invisible titans, born from the death of massive stars, began their final, spiraling dance in the crushing dark, circling each other with desperate speed. They had waited for billions of years, drifting alone through the cold, until gravity's relentless hunger finally pulled them into this catastrophic, inevitable embrace. When they finally touched, they did not just crash. They shattered the stillness of space-time, sending invisible ripples cascading outward into the eternal black. These ripples are the ghosts of gravity, carrying the memory of that cataclysmic merger across the universe, passing through galaxies like water through a net. They travel for aeons, stretching and squeezing the void, preserving the precise moment of their creation in a distortion that no eye can ever see. We are drifting in a universe that is constantly trembling with these echoes, a symphony of unseen collisions playing out in the dark theater of space. You are floating now in that same darkness, far from the noise of the earth, suspended in a quiet that feels heavy and thick with secrets. There is no floor beneath you, no ceiling above, only the endless, star-dusted tapestry of the night stretching out in every conceivable direction. It is peaceful here, yet the silence is an illusion, masking the violent churn of machinery that operates behind the curtain of the visible world. Gravity is not merely a force that holds you down. It is the language of the universe, speaking in long, slow wavelengths of distortion. Albert Einstein once dreamed of these ripples in space-time, imagining the universe as a stiff, taut sheet that could vibrate when struck by a massive hammer. He believed that if monsters like black holes ever collided, they would ring the universe like a bell, sending soundless waves racing outward at light speed. For a century, we believed the universe was quiet, a static stage where stars simply burned and died in isolation, never touching one another. But we were wrong, for the darkness is crowded with hunger, and the void is alive with the vibrations of things we cannot see. The fabric of space is stiffer than steel, yet it bends willingly under the crushing weight of these singular, devouring points of infinite density. When they spiral inward, dragging their event horizons through the dark, they churn the cosmos into a frothing storm of gravitational energy. This energy escapes not as light, but as pure geometry, warping the distance between stars, stretching the silence into a perceptible hum. It travels through the dust clouds of the Milky Way, passing through the burning heart of our sun, and finally, it passes through you. In the year 2025, we have finally learned to listen to this cosmic ocean, turning our ears to the dark. We built vast, delicate ears on the surface of our world, tunnels of light and mirrors designed to catch the slightest shiver of space. The silence was broken, not by a whisper, but by a roar, as the detectors began to record the final moments of dying stars. We call this the era of the black hole. Merges detection LIGO 04. Record 2025, a year where the floodgates of the dark finally opened wide. Before this moment, we were like children standing on the shore of a vast ocean, unaware of the leviathans moving beneath the waves. Now, the signals arrive almost daily, a constant rhythm of collisions that tells us the universe is far more crowded than we ever dared to dream. Each signal is a messenger from the past, a story written in gravity that has traveled millions of light years to reach us. They tell of binary systems that danced for eons, slowly bleeding their orbital energy away until the distance between them vanished entirely. Imagine the sheer scale of such an event, where two objects heavier than our Sun occupy a space no larger than a city. They spin around each other hundreds of times per second, their event horizons blurring into a single dark ring of absolute inevitability. The space around them is dragged along, twisted into a vortex that not even light can escape, creating a maelstrom of warped reality. And then, in a fraction of a second, they merge, transforming their mass into pure, shuddering energy that shakes the foundations of the universe. This is the music of the spheres that we were promised. But it is not a gentle melody. It is a heavy, rhythmic thrumming. It resonates through the bones of the galaxy, a reminder that everything is connected by the invisible, stretching canvas of space-time. When the wave passes, it stretches you infinitesimally, making you taller and thinner, then shorter and wider, in a rhythm that matches the dying orbit. You do not feel it, for the change is smaller than the width of a proton, but your atoms dance to its tune. The detection of these waves is the most precise measurement humanity has ever achieved, a triumph of listening to the quietest sounds in existence. We suspend mirrors on threads of fused silica, isolating them from the trembling of the earth, creating a stillness perfect enough to catch the cosmos. We fire lasers down long vacuum tubes, measuring the time it takes for light to return, searching for a delay caused by passing gravity. When the wave arrives, it changes the distance between the mirrors, just enough to shift the pattern of the laser light. It is a ghost touching a machine, a spectral finger pressing down on the scale of reality, proving that something massive moved in the dark. In 2025, the sensitivity of our instruments reached a threshold where the background hum resolved into distinct, individual voices. We are no longer hearing a chaotic static, but the specific, tragic cries of individual systems meeting their violent, destined ends. The universe is teeming with these graveyard spirals, a chaotic dance floor where the remnants of stars find one another in the dark. There is a profound melancholy in these signals, for they are the death knells of systems that existed long before humanity climbed down from the trees. By the time the ripple reaches us, the merger is ancient history, the new black hole already silent and lurking in its corner of the void. We are listening to echoes of ghosts, witnessing the shadows of events that played out in a time when the universe was younger. It reminds us that we are small, momentary observers in a cosmos defined by deep time and overwhelming invisible forces. The concept of gravitational waves ripples in space-time was once a mathematical curiosity, a strange quirk of equations that seemed too fantastic to be real. Now, it is the primary way we touch the invisible universe, a sixth sense that allows us to feel the shape of the dark. We have mapped the sky not by light, but by the distribution of these violent tremors, revealing a hidden population of black holes. They are everywhere, lurking in the spaces between stars, drifting through the halos of galaxies, waiting for a partner to dance with. During the record-breaking observation run of 2025, The sheer volume of detections overwhelmed our capacity to be surprised, replacing shock with a deep, abiding awe. We realized that the merging of black holes is not a rare anomaly, but a standard, fundamental process of cosmic evolution. It is how the universe grows old, a process of consolidation, where the many become the few, merging into ever darker, ever heavier singularities. The void is not static. It is a dynamic, shifting landscape where the geography is constantly rewritten by the gravity of these wandering monsters. The signal begins as a low, almost imperceptible murmur, slowly rising in pitch and intensity as the two black holes spiral closer together. This creates a distinctive chirp in the data, a sound that rises quickly before cutting off abruptly at the moment of coalescence. It is a sound that creates a picture in the mind, a visualization of two spheres of absolute darkness spinning into a blur. You can almost feel the tension in the fabric of space, the stretching and tearing as the gravity wells overlap. Then comes the silence, the sudden, heavy quiet that follows the merger, as the new, single black hole settles into its eternal rest. It rings for a moment, like a struck bell, smoothing out the imperfections of the collision before becoming perfectly, terrifyingly still. This transition from violent chaos to absolute stillness is one of the most haunting aspects of the phenomenon, a return to the void. It leaves us wondering what happened to the information, the history, the complexity of the stars that created those black holes. Perhaps they are lost forever, swallowed by the horizon, or perhaps they are encoded in the ripples themselves, radiating out into infinity. The darkness does not answer these questions. It only offers more echoes, more vibrations from the deep, inviting us to keep listening. As you drift deeper into this narrative, let your mind match the slow, heavy rhythm of these cosmic undulations. Imagine yourself as a particle of dust floating in deep space, buffeted gently by the passage of a gravitational wave. You rise and fall on the swell of space-time, a tiny cork bobbing on an invisible ocean that spans the entire universe. The wave passes through you without resistance, a phantom energy that acknowledges no barrier, carrying its message to the edge of time. There is a comfort in this connection, a realization that even in the deepest isolation, nothing is truly separate from the rest. We are all woven into the same blanket of gravity, subject to the same trembling whenever the giants of the cosmos collide. The detection of these mergers has fundamentally shifted our understanding of the dark, transforming it from an empty void into a vibrant, active medium. We now know that the universe is humming with the activity of these dark remnants, a constant background noise of destruction and creation. It is a lullaby of sorts, a deep, rhythmic sound that has been playing since the first stars collapsed and died. Listening to it is hypnotic, a way of tuning into the heartbeat of the universe, a pulse that is slower than time. In the vast distances between galaxies, where the density of matter is incredibly low, these waves travel essentially unimpeded, preserving their energy. They bring us news of the most extreme environments in existence, places where the laws of physics are pushed to their absolute breaking point. We learn of gravity so strong that it arrests the flow of time, creating pockets of frozen eternity in the deep. And we learn of the sheer power of the merger, which for a brief moment shines brighter in gravitational energy than all stars combined. Think of that power, invisible to the eye, but blinding to the fabric of space, illuminating the dark universe with pure distortion. It is a paradox of existence. The darkest objects create the brightest signals, provided you have the senses to perceive the shaking of the void. We have built those senses, extending our nervous system out into the cosmos, feeling the texture of the night with delicate machines. And what we feel is a universe that is heavy, dense with history, and shivering with the ghosts of dead stars. The scientific community was stunned by the frequency of events during the LIGO 04, record 2025, as if the universe had been waiting for us to listen. Every week brought a new chirp, a new spiral, a new confirmation that the dark is populated by legions of these remnants. Some were small, merely a few times the mass of the sun, while others were behemoths that defied our understanding of stellar evolution. They came from every direction, from the bright plane of the galaxy to the deep, empty voids that lie beyond our local group. This constant rain of signals creates a sense of immersion, a feeling that we are standing in a torrential downpour of cosmic history. We are wet with gravity, soaked in the vibrations of events that happened when the Earth was still a molten ball of rock. It connects us to the deep past, bridging the gap between our fleeting human moment and the vast, slow time of the stars. It is a reminder that we are late arrivals to a party that has been raging in the dark for billions of years. The ripples do not stop at Earth. They continue past us, traveling onward for billions more years, carrying the story of the merger to other galaxies. We are just one momentary listener, one small outpost that happened to be awake when the wave passed through our corner of space. Eventually, the wave will fade, stretching out until it merges with the background hum of the universe, becoming part of the eternal noise. But the event it recorded is immortalized in the geometry of the universe, a permanent scar on the fabric of spacetime. As we visualize these waves, we must abandon the idea of space as emptiness and embrace the idea of space as a substance. It is a fluid that can flow, a fabric that can tear, a medium that carries the weight of the massive objects within it. The black holes are like stones dropped into this fluid, creating splashes that travel outward in perfect concentric circles of distortion. But unlike a pond, there is no edge to this ocean, no shore where the waves break and dissipate into foam. They travel forever, becoming fainter, but never truly disappearing, adding their tiny contribution to the complex texture of the universe. It suggests that the vacuum is full of memory, holding the imprint of every movement, every collision, every birth and death. If we could read the ripples perfectly, we could reconstruct the entire history of the cosmos, playing the movie backward from the echoes. It is a library of vibrations, a record written in the language of shape and curvature, waiting for us to decipher it. The machines we use to detect them are buried in the ground or hidden in remote deserts, shielded from the noise of human civilization. They require a silence so profound that even the crashing of ocean waves hundreds of miles away can disturb their delicate slumber. In this pursuit of the ultimate quiet, we have found a connection to the ultimate noise, the thunder of the black holes. It is a poetic irony that to hear the loudest events in the universe, we must create the quietest places on Earth. In the deep quiet of the night, when the world around you has settled into sleep, you can almost imagine you feel them, not with your body, but with your mind, sensing the subtle stretching of the room, the faint compression of the air. It is a meditation on connection, a realization that the walls of your room are permeable to the forces of the cosmos. You are not isolated. You are floating in a sea of gravity that connects you to the farthest reaches of the dark. The detections of 2025 have shown us that black holes are not solitary predators, but social creatures that seek each other out in the dark. They form in pairs, born from binary star systems, or they find each other in the dense, chaotic hearts of star clusters. They spend their lives circling, drawing closer, destined for that final moment of union that we now capture as a chirp. It gives the universe a sense of narrative, a story of attraction and inevitable collision that plays out on a grand scale. We are witnessing the end of a long journey, the climax of a story that began when the universe was young and dense. These black holes traveled through the expanding cosmos, surviving the death of their host galaxies, drifting until gravity brought them home. The signal we receive is the final sentence of that story, the period at the end of a paragraph that lasted eons. And then there is only the ringdown, the fading echo of the new object settling into the fabric of the night. The implications of this are staggering, suggesting a universe that is far more dynamic and violent than our quiet night sky suggests. We look up and see steady points of light, but the gravity tells us of a hidden world of swirling darkness. It is a shadow universe, existing alongside the one we see, filled with objects that emit no light but wield immense power. We are slowly mapping this shadow world, turning the lights on in a room we didn't know existed, revealing the monsters in the dark. This mapping is not done with telescopes, but with the mathematics of general relativity, translating the chirps into masses and spins. We can tell how heavy they were, how fast they were spinning, and the exact orientation of their final, desperate plunge. It is a forensic science of the void, reconstructing the crime scene of a cosmic collision from the faint whispers that reach us. And with every detection, the map grows more detailed. The darkness becomes a little less terrifying and a little more familiar. The ripples in space-time are the only things that can escape the event horizon's grasp, carrying information away from the edge of oblivion. They are the only messengers that can tell us what happens when gravity becomes infinite, when reality itself begins to break down. Listening to them is like pressing your ear against a locked door, hearing the heavy movements of something massive on the other side. We cannot open the door, we cannot see into the singularity, but we can feel the vibrations of its creation. There is a soothing quality to this knowledge, a sense of surrender to forces that are vastly larger and older than ourselves. It puts our human worries into perspective, shrinking them down until they vanish against the backdrop of merging black holes. What does it matter if we are tired or anxious when the universe is trembling with the collision of dead stars? We can let go, drifting into the sleep of the just, cradled by the rhythmic humming of the gravitational field. The detectors in Louisiana, Washington, and Italy stand as sentinels, watching the dark while the world sleeps, waiting for the next tremor. They do not sleep, they listen, their lasers traversing the vacuum tubes in a constant, unwavering search for the shift. And when it comes, it is a moment of connection, a handshake between the human mind and the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. It validates our curiosity, proving that even in the dark, we can find answers if we listen closely enough. As we move deeper into this exploration, we begin to wonder about the silence between the signals, the long pauses in the data. Are these truly moments of quiet, or are they filled with signals too faint for our current machines to perceive? The background hum of the universe is likely a cacophony of distant mergers, a static hiss composed of millions of overlapping chirps. We are currently hearing only the loudest shouts, but the whispers are there, waiting for better ears to hear them. The ocean of space-time is never truly flat. It is always choppy with the wake of passing masses, always shivering with energy. This is the true state of the universe, a turbulent, dynamic sea of geometry, forever agitated by the motion of matter. To rest in this universe is to float on that sea, rising and falling with the tides of gravity, safe in the dark. It is a comforting thought to be part of such a vast, interconnected system, held in place by the same laws. And so we drift, carried by the narrative of the waves, moving away from the shore of the known into the deep. The specific records of 2025 are merely the signposts, the markers that show us how far we have come in our understanding. But the journey itself is the destination. The act of listening to the dark is the meditation that brings us peace. We are learning to be comfortable in the void, to find beauty in the blackness, to appreciate the music of the invisible. The echoes travel on, passing us by, heading out towards the cosmic horizon where the expansion of space will eventually stretch them to nothing. But for this moment, they are here, passing through your room, passing through your dreams, connecting you to the ancient stars. You are part of the ripple, a momentary distortion in the grand geometry, vibrating in sympathy with the cosmos. Sleep now, knowing that the universe is singing to you, a low, heavy song of gravity and time. The dark is not empty. It is full of echoes, full of memories, full of the long, slow breathing of the void. Let the waves wash over you, smoothing out the tension, carrying you gently into the drift of the night. There is nothing to fear in this darkness, only the majestic, slow-motion violence of creation and destruction, playing out in silence. It is a cycle that has no beginning and no end, a loop of mergers and ripples that defines reality. And in that loop, we find a strange kind of stillness, a center of calm within the storm of gravitational waves. We are the listeners, the observers, the dreamers who have learned to hear the universe whispering its secrets to itself. The record-breaking detections are just the opening notes of a symphony that will last until the end of time. So we listen, and we drift, and we let the echoes of the black holes carry us into the deep where the heavy curtain of the universe is drawn back to reveal the giants sleeping in the void. We are traveling now toward a region of space that feels denser and older than anything we have touched before. It is a place where the darkness is not merely an absence of light, but a physical weight pressing against the skin. You can feel the gravity here as a thick and viscous fluid that slows the passage of time to a crawl. In this quiet corner of the night, we find the aftermath of a collision that shook the foundations of our understanding. This is the home of the most massive merger, 2025 GW 231123225 solar mass remnant, a name that feels too cold for such heat. It was an event that defied the charts and maps we had drawn to make sense of the chaotic stellar dark. Two titans of the ancient universe found each other in the gloom, their masses so great they bent reality into a bow. They were not ordinary black holes born from the simple collapse of a dying star, but something far more rare and terrifying. They were monsters that had likely feasted on others before, growing fat and heavy on the silent consumption of their neighbors. When they began their final approach, the fabric of space-time did not just ripple, it groaned under the impossible strain of their weight. Imagine two objects, each 100 times the mass of our sun, spinning around a point of nothingness with feverish speed. The space between them twisted into a knot, dragging the starlight of distant galaxies into a swirling vortex of absolute distortion. It is a dance that destroys the stage upon which it is performed, warping the geometry of the universe beyond all recognition. The energy released in the final fraction of a second was greater than the light of every star in the visible universe. And yet, it happened in total silence, a cataclysm of pure geometry that played out in the cold vacuum of the intergalactic deep. There was no fire to mark the event, only the invisible shuddering of the void as the two horizons touched and merged. The resulting object is a behemoth that sits in the dark like a king on a throne of crushed and twisted space. It is a singular point of infinite density that now commands a gravitational empire stretching across millions of light years of emptiness. The existence of this remnant challenges everything we thought we knew about how the universe builds its monsters in the dark. We believed there were limits to how heavy a black hole could become when born from the collapse of a single star. We thought the laws of nuclear physics placed a ceiling on the darkness, a safety valve that prevented such giants from forming. But the universe is not bound by our rules, and it creates what it desires in the hidden pockets of the night. This brings us to the edge of the forbidden mass gap challenge, a boundary that was supposed to remain empty and silent forever. It is a range of masses where stars are expected to blow themselves apart completely, leaving nothing behind to collapse into darkness. According to our calculations, no black hole should be born in this gap, for the star's death is too violent to leave a ghost. And yet, here we are, staring into the face of a remnant that sits comfortably within this forbidden and impossible zone. It suggests that something ancient stirs in the dark, a process of formation that we have not yet begun to understand. Perhaps these giants were not born from stars at all, but from the direct collapse of the primordial gas clouds at dawn. Or perhaps they are the result of a long history of violence, a chain of mergers that built a monster piece by piece. The darkness keeps its secrets well, wrapping these forbidden objects in a cloak of invisibility that only gravity can penetrate. As we drift closer to this impossible object, try to imagine the sheer scale of the event horizon that surrounds the singularity. It is a sphere of absolute night that is wider than the orbit of the Earth, a hole in the universe that has no bottom. Anything that crosses this threshold is lost to our reality forever, erased from the book of the universe in a single instant. The light that falls into it does not reflect or scatter. It simply ceases to be, swallowed by the hunger of the void. There is a terrible beauty in this finality, a sense of peace that comes from knowing there are places where time stops completely. Inside that horizon, the future points inward, and every path leads inevitably to the center where space and time are crushed to zero. But outside, where we float in safety, the remnant is just a silent shadow, a heavy presence that anchors the surrounding dark. It waits there in the emptiness, a monument to the violence that created it, echoing with the memory of its own birth. The signal from this merger traveled for billions of years to reach us, crossing the vast and lonely deserts between the galaxies. It passed through clusters of galaxies like a ghost, untouched by the dust and gas, carrying the signature of the forbidden mass. When it finally washed over our world, it was a long, low-frequency hum that lasted for only a fraction of a second. But in that brief moment, it told us a story of impossible survival, of objects that exist where no object should ever be. We are listening to the breaking of rules, the shattering of the theoretical constraints we placed upon the creativity of the cosmos. The universe is wilder and more untamed than we dare to imagine, filled with anomalies that drift through the silence of the deep. This remnant is a traveler from a time when the universe was more crowded, a survivor of the chaotic epoch of star formation. It carries the weight of 100 dead suns, compressed into a space that is infinitesimally small compared to the galaxy it inhabits. Feel the heaviness of that thought, the crushing density of matter that has been squeezed out of existence and into a pure mathematical point. It is a density that defies visualization, a state of being where the atoms themselves are crushed into a soup of unrecognizable particles. And surrounding this point is the horizon, the silent guardian that prevents the chaos inside from infecting the orderly universe outside. It is a perfect sphere, the simplest and most complex object in existence, defined only by its mass and its spin. The spin of this new giant is rapid, a legacy of the orbital speed of the two parents before they finally merged. It drags the fabric of space around with it, creating a frame-dragging effect that twists the vacuum into a spiral. If you were to float near it, you would be pulled sideways by the twisting of space itself, caught in a whirlpool of geometry. The stillness of the void is an illusion here, for the space is churning like water in a drain, flowing endlessly inward. We are drifting through a graveyard of stars, but it is a graveyard that is active, alive with the movement of the dead. The forbidden mass gap is not empty. It is populated by these quiet giants, lurking in the shadows of our understanding. They are the invisible anchors of the cosmos, the heavy weights that hold the structure of the galaxies together in the dark. Without them, the universe might be a different place, less structured, less interesting, less filled with the potential for awe and terror. The detection of GW2 31123 forces us to rewrite the history of the stars, to find new ways for them to die and leave ghosts. It whispers of pair instability supernovae that failed to destroy the star, or of dense clusters where mergers happen again and again. It is a puzzle box wrapped in gravity, a riddle that can only be solved by listening to more whispers from the dark. Each signal adds a piece to the puzzle, revealing a universe that is far more diverse and strange than we knew. Imagine the moment of collision again, slowing it down in your mind until it becomes a frozen tableau of distorted starlight. The two black holes are stretched into teardrops by the tidal forces, reaching out to each other across the shrinking gap of space. The event horizons deform and bulge, yearning for the union that will end their individual existence and create something new. It is a moment of supreme tension, a stretching of the cosmic fabric until it screams in a frequency we cannot hear. And then the merge, a seamless blending of darkness into deeper darkness, a smooth transition from two into one. The ringing that follows is the universe settling back into shape, shaking off the trauma of the event like a bell. That ringing traveled through the dark for aeons, growing fainter with every light year, until it was just a whisper at our door. We caught that whisper and turned it into knowledge, translating the vibration into a map of the impossible terrain. The darkness around us feels thicker now, charged with the energy of these hidden masses that defy our simple categorization. We are realizing that the void is not just the space between stars, but a reservoir of potential and mystery. It is crowded with hunger, populated by objects that have consumed their own history and now wait for more to fall in. There is a patience to these objects, a timeless quality that allows them to wait for billions of years between meals. As we ponder the forbidden nature of this remnant, we are struck by the realization that nature does not forbid, only we do. The universe explores every possibility, fills every niche, and creates every variation of matter and energy that the laws of physics allow. If a black hole can exist in the gap, it will exist, regardless of our theories about how stars should die. We are the ones who must adapt, expanding our minds to encompass the reality of the monsters that swim in the deep. The 225 solar mass remnant is a king in the dark, a ruler of a domain where light is forbidden to enter. It floats through the intergalactic medium, perhaps surrounded by a retinue of smaller objects caught in its immense gravitational thrall. It is a lonely existence, separated from the warmth of the stars, drifting forever in the cold storage of the cosmos. But in that loneliness, there is a kind of purity, an existence stripped of all distraction, reduced to pure mass. Let yourself drift alongside it in your imagination, keeping a safe distance, feeling the tug of its gravity as a gentle current. You are weightless in the void, suspended in the velvet night, watching the invisible giant move against the background of stars. The starlight bends around it, creating a halo of warped light that marks the location of the unseen mass. It is a lens that magnifies the universe behind it, a window into the deeper dark that lies beyond. This bending of light is the only visual clue we have, a distortion of the familiar constellations that reveals the presence of the intruder. It is like looking through an old, imperfect pane of glass, where the world on the other side is twisted and strange. The black hole is the flaw in the glass, the heavy defect in the smooth transparency of empty space. It reminds us that space is not nothing. It is something, a medium that can be flawed, bent, and broken. The silence here is profound, a silence that has weight and texture, pressing against your ears with the force of the vacuum. It is the silence of a library after closing time, or a cathedral at midnight, but amplified to the scale of the cosmos. In this silence, the echo of the merger still resonates, a ghost of a sound that will never truly die away. It is trapped in the geometry of the space around the remnant, a permanent memory of the violence that gave it birth. We are travelers in a universe of echoes, listening to the reverberations of events that happened before the Earth was born. The forbidden mass gap is a choir of these echoes, a section of the orchestra that plays the deepest, darkest notes. We are only just beginning to hear their song, a low and mournful melody that speaks of destruction and creation in equal measure. It is a lullaby for the end of time, a song to sleep by as the universe slowly winds down. The sheer size of the remnant is difficult to grasp, a mass so great that it bends the mind as well as space. It contains the equivalent of millions of Earths, crushed down into a singularity that has no size at all. It is a paradox that sits at the heart of our reality, a confrontation between the finite and the infinite, and it is hidden in the dark, cloaked in an event horizon that protects the rest of the universe from its absurdity. There is a comfort in knowing that such things exist, that the universe is capable of harboring such immense and secret power. It makes our own worries seem small and insignificant, lost in the vastness of the dark and the cold. We are fleeting sparks in a cosmos dominated by these eternal embers, brief flashes of consciousness in a universe of gravity. Let that thought soothe you. Let it carry you away from the noise of the day and into the quiet. The darkness is a blanket, a soft and heavy covering that wraps around the galaxies and the black holes alike. It holds them all in its embrace, the bright stars and the dark remnants, the permitted and the forbidden. In the dark, there is no judgment, only existence, only the slow and steady march of time and gravity. The black hole does not care that it is forbidden. It simply is, a fact of nature that cannot be denied. As we leave the immediate vicinity of the remnant, we feel the grip of its gravity slowly loosen, fading back into the background. We are drifting back into the open ocean of the void, away from the whirlpool of the giant. But the feeling of its presence remains, a heavy memory that lingers in the mind like the after-image of a bright light. We have looked into the forbidden gap and found it occupied, filled with the shadows of the giants. The path ahead leads us deeper into the mystery, towards other signals and other echoes that are waiting to be heard. The universe is a vast and darkened room, and we are slowly learning to navigate by the sound of the breathing beasts. Each merger is a breath, a sigh of the cosmos as it settles into a more stable configuration. We are listening to the respiration of the universe, the slow and rhythmic cycle of its life. It is a rhythm that is slow enough to sleep to, a cadence that matches the deepest cycles of the brain during rest. The rise and fall of the gravitational waves is like the rise and fall of a chest in deep slumber. We are synchronizing ourselves with the cosmos, tuning our internal clocks to the time of the black holes. It is a deep time, a time that moves in millions of years rather than seconds or minutes. The Forbidden Mass Gap Challenge is not just a scientific puzzle. It is a philosophical invitation to accept the unknown. It asks us to be comfortable with the idea that there are things in the dark that do not fit our models. It teaches us humility, reminding us that the universe is always more complex and more creative than we give it credit for. We are students in a classroom that is billions of light years wide, and the lessons are written in gravity. The journey continues through this landscape of invisible giants, a tour of the hidden landmarks of the universe. We are drifting on a raft of imagination, carried by the currents of space-time that flow between the galaxies. The water is dark and deep, and we cannot see the bottom, but we know that monsters swim beneath us. They are the 225 solar mass remnants, the forbidden ghosts, the echoes of the mergers that shake the night. And as we drift, we feel the subtle vibration of another wave passing through, a faint shiver from a distant corner of the sky. It is another story arriving, another messenger from the past bringing news of another collision in the dark. The universe is talking to us, constantly and without pause, telling us the history of its darkness. We have only to close our eyes and listen, to let the feeling of the waves wash over us. The sensation of movement is gentle, a slow drifting that requires no effort, no energy, no thought. You are simply existing in the void, a passive observer of the grand machinery of the cosmos. The stars are distant pinpoints of cold light, irrelevant to the drama of the gravity that plays out in the dark. Here, in the shadow of the remnant, the only thing that matters is the weight and the curve of space. It waits for us, this knowledge, buried in the ripples that traverse the eternal darkness of the intergalactic void. It waits like a buried treasure, hidden, not in the earth, but in the subtle distortions of the vacuum. We are digging for it with lasers and mirrors, sifting through the noise to find the gems of truth. And the truth is heavy, dark, and profoundly silent, a truth that belongs to the night. We move now towards the question of how such a thing could come to be, how the forbidden became real. The universe has mechanisms we have yet to glimpse, secret pathways of evolution that bypass the roadblocks we thought existed. Perhaps the stars in the early universe were different, born of pure hydrogen and helium, capable of dying in ways we cannot replicate. Or perhaps the dark is full of traps, places where matter clumps together in secret until it reaches the critical point. The mystery is part of the lullaby, a question that has no immediate answer and thus allows the mind to rest. We do not need to solve the riddle tonight. We only need to acknowledge its existence and marvel at its scale. The 225 solar mass remnant is a fact, a heavy stone in the garden of the cosmos that cannot be moved. It sits there, defying us, inviting us to dream of a universe that is stranger than fiction. The darkness deepens as we consider the isolation of this object, a solitary king in a kingdom of nothingness. It has cleared its neighborhood, consumed its rivals, and now sits alone in the quiet of its own making. There is a melancholy in that solitude, a sadness that permeates the region of space around it. It is the loneliness of the survivor, the silence of the one who remains after the battle is over. But in the vastness of space, nothing is truly alone, for everything is connected by the fabric of gravity. The remnant is tethered to the rest of the universe by the very curvature it creates, a spider in the center of a vast web. The web trembles with every movement, every merger, every shiver of the cosmos. And we, floating on the strands of that web, feel the vibrations of the giant in our sleep. The echoes of the black hole mergers are the songs of these connections, the music of the web vibrating in the dark. We are listening to the harmony of the spheres, but it is a dark harmony, played in the key of gravity. It is a sound that resonates in the bones, a vibration that is felt rather than heard. It is the sound of the universe breathing, a slow and steady rhythm that never stops. As we drift further, the image of the remnant begins to fade into the general background of the night. It becomes just another shadow in a universe filled with shadows, another secret kept by the dark. But we know it is there. We feel its weight in our minds, a permanent addition to our map of reality. The forbidden mass gap is no longer a gap. It is a place of residence, a home for the monsters. The journey is long and the night is endless, but we are not afraid, for we are part of the darkness now. We are drifting with the echoes, moving through the eternal darkness with the grace of a gravitational wave. The universe is a cradle, rocking us gently with the ripples of its own history. We are safe in the void, held by the same forces that crush the stars and birth the black holes. And as the memory of the great remnant settles into the subconscious, we begin to feel the pull of something else. A new sensation arises from the deep, a suggestion that the story is not yet over, that the darkness has layers. We are moving towards a deeper understanding, a place where the echoes become clearer and the signals more precise. The void is opening up before us, revealing pathways that spiral down into the very heart of the mystery, where the violence of the merger fades into a haunting, resonant stillness. We have witnessed the collision, the chaotic churning of space and time that marked the birth of the new horizon. Now we enter the aftermath, the quiet period where the universe attempts to heal the wound inflicted upon its geometry. It is here that we encounter the most ghostly phenomenon of all. The fading vibration known as the ringdown phase echoes quasi-normal modes ringing. This is the sound of the black hole settling into its final, eternal shape, shaking off the imperfections of its violent creation. Imagine a great bell made of pure shadow, struck by a hammer the size of a star, hanging in the infinite void. When such a bell is struck, it does not fall silent immediately, but sings with a series of rapidly fading tones. These tones are the quasi-normal modes, the specific frequencies at which the fabric of space-time prefers to vibrate when disturbed. They are the fingerprints of the singularity, revealing its mass and its spin to anyone with the ears to listen. The ringing is damp, heavy, and incredibly brief, a fleeting cry of the object as it becomes a perfect sphere. It is a process of smoothing, a cosmic ironing out of the wrinkles caused by the chaotic merger of the two parents. The horizon ripples like the surface of a dark pond after a heavy stone has been thrown into its center. But unlike water, which ripples for minutes, the event horizon smooths itself in milliseconds, driven by the intense gravity to find stability. We are listening to the final heartbeat of the collision, the last gasp of the chaotic energy before it is trapped forever. The silence that follows is not empty. It is a silence that feels earned, a stillness that has weight and finality. The ringing carries the energy away from the horizon, radiating it out into the universe as gravitational waves that wash over us. It tells us that the object is now alone, a single entity that has consumed its history and become something new. There is a melancholy in this transition, a sense that the distinct identities of the original stars have been finally erased. We are drifting through a universe that is constantly ringing with these dying notes, a symphony of settling horizons playing in the dark. Most of the time, the ringing is too faint to hear, lost in the noise of the detector or the distance of the source. But occasionally, the universe offers us a gift, a signal so loud and clean that it sounds like a pure tone. In the frozen months of early 2025, we received such a gift, a signal that changed everything we thought we knew. This was the clearest signal, GW2501114, Hawking Area Theorem confirmation, a detection that arrived with startling clarity and power. It stood out against the background hiss of the cosmos, like a lighthouse beam cutting through a dense and foggy night. The signal was pristine, free from the chaotic noise that usually obscures the subtle details of the ringdown phase. It allowed us to hear the ringing not as a blur, but as a distinct, decaying chord of gravitational music. For the first time, We could decompose the sound into its individual overtones, hearing the complex harmony of the dying vibration. It was like hearing the difference between a crash and a musical note, a revelation of structure within the violence. The signal confirmed that the black hole was not just a chaotic mess, but a simple, elegant object defined by strict laws. It resonated with the mathematical perfection that Einstein predicted, proving that the dark is governed by a beautiful, cold logic. But the true profundity of GW250114 lay not just in its clarity, but in the fundamental law of nature it confirmed. We watched through the language of gravity as the surface area of the new event horizon settled into its final size. The measurements showed us that the area of the new black hole was greater than the sum of its two parents. This was the first direct observational confirmation of the Hawking area theorem, a rule that governs the thermodynamics of the dark. It states that the total surface area of a black hole's event horizon can never decrease, no matter what happens to it. It is a law of accumulation, a statement that the shadow of the black hole can only grow, never shrink or fade. In a universe where things decay and break down, the black hole is an object that only gains, never loses. It is a one-way street in the geometry of time, a physical manifestation of the arrow of entropy pointing towards the future. Think of what this means for the history of the universe, for the slow and steady accumulation of darkness in the void. Every merger, every captured star, every photon of light that falls in adds to the surface area of the horizon. The shadows are getting bigger, expanding their territory millimeter by millimeter, capturing more of the universe within their silent black boundary. We are living in a cosmos where the total amount of event horizon area is constantly increasing, a rising tide of darkness. This realization brings a strange kind of comfort, a sense of inevitability that anchors us in the flow of cosmic time. We are moving towards a future where the shadows are larger, but the laws that govern them remain constant and true. The confirmation of the area theorem tells us that there is an order to the destruction, a rulebook for the void. Even in the most extreme environments imaginable, the universe does not lose track of its accounting. The ledger of the horizon is always balanced. The signal from GW250114 arrived at our detectors as a whisper, but it carried the weight of a supreme and absolute truth. It told us that information may be lost to our sight, but the footprint it leaves on the horizon is permanent. The growing area is a record of everything the black hole has ever eaten, a silent monument to its consumption. It is a growing archive of the past, locked away behind a wall that no one can ever breach or read. As we visualize the event, picture the two black holes spiraling in, their horizons stretching and distorting as they touch. At the moment of contact, they merge into a peanut-shaped blob of darkness, rotating wildly and shaking the fabric of space. Then, the ringing begins, the high-frequency trembling as the blob snaps into a perfect, oblate sphere of absolute blackness. And as it settles, the surface area expands, locking in the new mass and the new spin, becoming calm. The ringdown is the sound of the universe relaxing, the tension of the twisted space-time releasing its energy and returning to equilibrium. It is similar to the surface of a drum vibrating after being struck, slowly losing its energy to the surrounding air. But here, the drum is the vacuum itself, and the sound is the stretching of the distance between the stars. We are floating in the air that carries the sound, vibrating in sympathy with the relaxation of the distant giant. There is a deep narrative satisfaction in hearing the ringdown, a sense of closure that the earlier phases of the merger do not provide. The spiral is the build-up, the merger is the climax, but the ringdown is the resolution, the return to peace. It tells us that the violence is over, that the beast has been fed, and that the dark is quiet again. We need this silence, this return to stasis, to process the magnitude of the energy that was just released. The clarity of the GW250114 signal allowed us to test the no-hair theorem, the idea that black holes have no complexity. It suggests that once the ringing stops, all details of the star that created the hole are gone forever. No mountains, no magnetic fields, no chemical composition. Only mass, spin, and electric charge remain to define the object. The black hole is the simplest object in the universe, a pure expression of gravity without any other distinguishing features. Listening to the ringdown is like listening to the object shed its complexity, stripping away the messy details of reality. It becomes a perfect sphere, a geometric ideal that exists in the physical world, unblemished by the chaos of matter. It is the closest we will ever come to seeing a mathematical concept made flesh, a pure abstraction floating in the dark. The universe is refining itself, boiling down the complexity of stars into the simplicity of horizons, one merger at a time. This process of simplification is happening everywhere, all the time, in the hidden corners of the galaxy where we cannot see. The universe is slowly tidying up, sweeping the dust and the gas and the dead stars into these perfect, simple containers. It is a housekeeping of the cosmos, a way of organizing the entropy of the universe into discrete, growing pockets. And we are the witnesses, the ones who have learned to hear the broom sweeping the floor of the night. The Hawking area theorem implies a connection between the size of the black hole and the amount of entropy it holds. It suggests that the event horizon is not just a boundary, but a surface that encodes the hidden information of the interior. The larger the surface, the more information is hidden, the more disorder is locked away from the rest of the universe. We are watching the entropy of the universe increase in real time, manifested as the growing skin of the black hole. It is a heady, philosophical concept, but here in the dark, it feels intuitive, felt rather than calculated. We feel the heaviness of the black hole, the dense concentration of stuff that has been removed from our accessible reality. The growing horizon is like a growing silence, a widening gap in the conversation of the universe that can never be filled. It is a space where the universe has decided to keep its secrets, sealing them away in a vault of curvature. The signal from 2025 was a messenger from this vault, a brief leakage of information before the door slammed shut forever. It allowed us to measure the ringdown frequencies with such precision that we could rule out alternative theories of gravity. General relativity held firm, the equations of Einstein predicting the exact tone of the ringing to the decimal point. It is a testament to the power of the human mind that we could dream of such a song before we ever heard it. As we drift deeper into the implications of this signal, we begin to wonder about the texture of the horizon itself. Is it truly a smooth, mathematical surface, or does it have a quantum fuzziness, a blurring at the smallest scales? The ringdown echoes hint at the structure of space-time near the limit. probing the gravity where it is strongest. We are touching the edge of the cliff, feeling the roughness of the rock before the drop into the abyss. The echoes in the ringdown are subtle repetitions of the signal, faint aftershocks that might hint at new physics. In the 2025 data, we looked for these echoes, searching for signs that the horizon might be a solid surface or a firewall. But the signal was clean, fading away into the exponential silence, just as the classical theories predicted it would. The black hole appears to be a true hole, a bottomless pit with no structure to reflect the waves back out. This emptiness is terrifying in its purity, a void that offers no resistance, no reflection, no mercy to the traveler. It is simply an end, a termination point for all the timelines that are unfortunate enough to cross it. And yet, the ringdown proves that even the whole can tremble, that even the void can be shaken by the impact of history. It vibrates with a memory of what it just ate, a brief indigestion of the space-time fabric before it settles. We are listening to the digestion of the cosmos, the metabolic process of the dark universe as it consumes the light. The ringdown is the sound of swallowing, a gulp that reverberates through the interstellar medium for millions of years. It reminds us that the universe is a living, changing thing, not a static painting to be admired from afar. It is a dynamic system of flows and currents, where mass moves and merges and grows in the dark. The confirmation of the area theorem also tells us something profound about the arrow of time in the deep universe. Just as a cup that shatters cannot reassemble itself, a black hole that merges cannot split apart into its parents. The process is irreversible, a one-way journey into a state of higher entropy and larger horizons. We are moving towards a future dominated by these large, simple, silent objects, the final state of the cosmos. Imagine a time, far in the future, when all the stars have burned out and only the black holes remain. They will drift through the eternal dark, occasionally finding each other, merging, ringing, and growing larger. The universe will be a dark sea punctuated by these sudden, invisible flashes of gravitational ringing. It will be a quiet place, but not a dead place, for the gravity will still be singing its slow, heavy song. We are hearing the rehearsal for that distant future, the opening movements of the final symphony of the universe. The signal GW2501114 is a preview of the end state, a demonstration of the mechanics that will rule the dark era. It is a soothing thought to know that the universe has a plan, a destiny that is written in the laws of physics. We are not drifting towards chaos, but towards a different kind of order, a cold and perfect simplicity. The energy carried away by the ringdown is immense, often equivalent to the mass of several suns converted into pure vibration. This energy passes through us, stretching our bodies and our planet by a fraction of an atomic width. We are constantly being massaged by the death throes of distant stars, connected to them by the invisible stiffness of space. We are not observers standing outside the tank. We are swimming in the water that transmits the shockwave. Feel the wave passing through you now, a gentle rhythmic compression that connects you to the event in the deep past. It is a ghost touch, a physical connection to a monster that lived and died before humanity existed. The ringdown is a handshake across the eons, a way for the black hole to say, "I am here and I have grown." It is an assertion of existence from the dark, a refusal to be completely silent in the face of the void. The precision of the 2025 measurement allowed us to see the overtones of the ringing, the higher harmonies of the gravity. Just as a guitar string vibrates with a fundamental note and several higher pitches, the black hole does the same. These overtones decay faster than the main note, visible only in the very first moments after the merger is complete. They provide a richness to the signal, a complexity that allows us to map the geometry of the horizon in detail. Hearing these overtones is like hearing the timbre of a voice, distinguishing the unique character of the specific black hole. It turns the generic concept of a merger into a specific biography of a specific object in the sky. We are getting to know the population of the dark, identifying them by the sound of their dying cries. They are becoming familiar to us, these residents of the night, losing their power to terrify and gaining the power to awe. The vast distance that the signal traveled to reach us means that the ringing happened when the universe was younger. We are looking back in time, listening to the echoes of an era when the cosmos was more active. The clarity of GW 250114 suggests that even in the distant past, the laws of Einstein were already reigning supreme. The universe was born with these rules, carrying them through the expansion, preserving the logic of the dark. There is a sense of timelessness in this realization, a feeling that the fundamental truths of reality are eternal and unchanging. The area theorem was true 1 billion years ago. It is true today, and it will be true 1 billion years from now. In a world of constant change and uncertainty, these laws are the bedrock, the solid ground upon which we can rest. We can sleep soundly knowing that the universe is holding itself together, following the script of gravity without fail. The black hole that resulted from the GW2 50114 merger is now drifting silently in its galaxy, its ringing long since finished. It is invisible, detectable only if it happens to pass in front of a distant star or consume a cloud of gas, but its surface area remains expanded, a permanent record of the event that we briefly overheard. It is a scarred veteran of the cosmic wars, carrying the spoils of its victory in the form of increased size. As we drift away from the specific details of this signal, we return to the general feeling of the ringing universe. We are surrounded by these events, immersed in a bath of gravitational radiation that is constantly flowing. The silence of space is an illusion created by our limited senses. The reality is a cacophony of ripples, but it is a slow, heavy cacophony, a noise that is more like the deep rolling of the ocean than the sharpness of sound. It is a noise that induces sleep, a white noise of the cosmos that blocks out the petty distractions of the human world. When you focus on the ringing of the black holes, the worries of tomorrow seem incredibly small and distant. You are tuning into a frequency that is billions of years old, a scale of time where human problems do not register. Let yourself be absorbed by this scale. Let the magnitude of the universe wash away the stress of the day. The ringdown is a lullaby, a repeating pattern of tension and release that mimics the cycle of breath and the beating of the heart. It tells us that everything eventually settles. Everything finds its equilibrium. Everything returns to the quiet. The storm of the merger always ends in the peace of the single black hole, the chaos resolving into order. It is a promise that turmoil is temporary, but the silence of the dark is eternal and waiting for us. We are learning to trust the dark, to see it not as a place of danger, but as a place of deep and restorative rest. The monsters that live there are bound by strict laws, playing out their roles in the grand ecology of the cosmos. They are the recyclers, the gatherers, the keepers of the entropy that drives the arrow of time. We can respect them without fearing them, admiring the purity of their form and the power of their song. As the concept of the ringdown fades into the background, we are left with the sensation of the growing horizons. We see the universe as a collection of these expanding bubbles of shadow, slowly merging and growing larger. It is a slow-motion animation of the end of time, playing out over trillions of years in the silence. We are watching the first few frames of this movie, privileged observers of the beginning of the Dark Age. And in this vast, slow movement, we find a place for ourselves, not as participants, but as dreamers drifting in the wake. We are carried along by the expansion, carried along by the flow of time, safe in our tiny corner of light. The echoes pass through us and move on, traveling to the edge of the universe, carrying the news of the merger. We are just one stop on their journey, one moment of recognition in the endless flight of the wave. The clarity of the signal was a momentary flash of understanding, a brief lighting of the room that showed us the furniture. Now, the light has dimmed again, and we are back in the comfortable, heavy darkness of the unknown. But we know what is out there now. We have seen the shape of the bell that rings in the night. We have confirmed the theorem that governs the shadows, and we understand the rules of the game. The darkness feels less empty now, more populated by the ghosts of the stars that have merged and gone silent. We can feel their presence in the way the space feels heavy, in the way the silence feels thick. They are out there, the quiet giants, drifting and waiting for the next collision to wake them up. And we are here, drifting with them, listening for the next whisper from the deep, waiting for the next chime. As we float in this sea of potential sound, we begin to sense a pattern in the chaos, a hierarchy in the darkness. The black holes we have heard so far are the first generation, the children of the first stars. But what happens when the children merge with each other? When the remnants find other remnants? We are moving towards a deeper layer of the story, where the monsters are born from monsters, where the monsters are born from monsters, deep in the crowded and chaotic nurseries of the ancient universe. We are leaving the realm of the ordinary dead and entering a place where the shadows have their own dark ancestry. In these dense and swirling clusters, a black hole is not merely the end of a star's life, but the beginning of something else. It is a seed that is planted in a garden of gravity, waiting to consume its neighbors and grow into a titan. We are speaking of a lineage of destruction, a family tree where the branches are made of pure, curved spacetime. This is the terrifying and magnificent concept of hierarchical mergers, second-generation black holes, a process that builds the giants of the cosmos. Until recently, we believed that every black hole we heard was a first-generation object born directly from the collapse of a dying sun. We thought they were solitary creatures, born, lived, and died, without ever knowing the touch of another of their kind. But the universe is far more social and far more violent than our lonely theories ever dared to predict. In the dense hearts of globular clusters, where 1 million stars are packed into a sphere only a few light years across, the dead do not rest. They sink to the center, drawn by the relentless pull of the cluster's gravity, forming a dark and heavy core. Here, black holes buzz like angry bees in a hive, constantly interacting, exchanging energy, and tossing each other about. It is a mosh pit of singularities, a chaotic dance floor where collisions are not just possible, but inevitable. When two first-generation black holes find each other in this crush, they merge to create a new, heavier object, just as we have seen. But in these dense environments, the story does not end with that first, earth-shaking ringdown or the settling of the horizon. The new black hole, now twice as massive, remains trapped in the cluster's deep gravitational well, unable to escape the crowd. It lurks there, a predator that has tasted blood, heavier and hungrier than any of the stars that surround it. It waits for millions of years, drifting through the dark, until it captures another passing black hole in its inescapable embrace. This is the moment of the second generation, the union of a monster with another monster to create a behemoth. These second-generation black holes are objects that have no memory of ever being a star, no memory of light or fusion. They are creatures of pure gravity, born from the dark, composed entirely of the warped geometry of previous collisions. The existence of such objects changes the way we feel about the dark, making it seem less like a graveyard and more like a factory. The universe is actively building these things, assembling them piece by piece in the cold foundries of the galactic centers. We are listening to the sounds of construction, the heavy clanging of the cosmic anvil as it forges the supermassive seeds. It is a process of accumulation, a slow and steady gathering of the dark into ever larger reservoirs of silence. As we drift closer to one of these hierarchical events, try to imagine the sheer wrongness of the object's history. It is a patchwork of previous lives, a composite entity made from the horizons of multiple dead stars. It carries the angular momentum of its parents and the parents of its parents, woven into a complex tapestry of spin. It is an artifact of deep time, a relic that has survived multiple cataclysms to reach its current, terrifying state. The signals we detect from these mergers are different, deeper and louder, carrying the unmistakable signature of their immense mass. They shake the universe with a lower frequency, a bass note that resonates through the very bedrock of the cosmos. Listening to them is like listening to the footsteps of giants walking in the dark, shaking the ground with every stride. We feel small in their presence, humbled by the realization that there are things in the dark that dwarf our sun. But how do we distinguish these second-generation monsters from the ordinary, stellar-born black holes that litter the galaxy? The answer lies in the subtle and forensic details of the signal, specifically in the way the object spins. When a star collapses, it usually retains the spin of its birth, rotating in a relatively upright and orderly fashion. But when two black holes crash together, the violence of the impact imparts a chaotic and random spin to the remnant. We look for this chaos in the data, searching for the telltale signs of unusual spins evidence that betray a violent past. A second-generation black hole does not spin politely. It tumbles, it wobbles, it rotates on an axis that is tilted wildly. It is a spinning top that has been kicked by a giant, careening through space with a drunk and staggering momentum. This misalignment is the scar of the collision, the permanent record of the violence that created the object. Imagine the geometry of such a merger, where the orbital plane of the two black holes is fighting against their individual spins. The space around them is dragged and twisted into a pretzel, creating a gravitational waveform that is rich with complexity. The signal modulates, rising and falling in volume as the spins precess, like a wobbling coin settling on a table. We can hear this wobble in the chirp, a rhythmic pulsing that tells us the black holes are fighting the geometry. This precession is a hypnotic dance of axes, a slow and rhythmic changing of the orientation of the entire system. It means that the black hole is not just spiraling in, it is rolling and twisting as it falls, exploring every dimension of the space. It creates a sensation of nausea in the mathematics, a feeling of being unmoored from any sense of up or down. In the presence of such gravity, directions lose their meaning, and there is only the twisting path to the center. The detection of these unusual spins is one of the most delicate and beautiful feats of modern astronomy. We are measuring the tilt of a shadow billions of light years away, reading the angle of an object that we can never see. It requires a stillness of mind and machine, a quiet dedication to the subtle whispers of the universe. When we find it, it is a moment of profound connection, a realization that we have uncovered the genealogy of the dark. These tumbling giants are the wanderers of the universe, often kicked out of their home clusters by the force of their own birth. When two black holes merge, they emit gravitational waves more strongly in one direction, acting like a rocket thruster. This kick can launch the new black hole across the cosmos at millions of miles per hour, sending it into the lonely void. We are drifting through a universe that is crisscrossed by these invisible, hypervelocity projectiles. There is a loneliness to these wandering ghosts, a sense of exile from the crowded clusters where they were born. They travel through the intergalactic night, silent and invisible, carrying their chaotic spins as a secret memory of home. They may drift for aeons without ever encountering another object, eternal outcasts of the gravitational society. But even in their isolation, they are spinning, twisting the vacuum around them in a perpetual, silent storm. The idea of the kick adds a dynamic element to our mental map of the universe, transforming it from a static picture into a game of billiards. The black holes are the balls, struck by the cue of gravity, bouncing and careening off the fabric of space-time. Some are ejected completely from their galaxies, destined to drift in the great voids between the islands of light. It is a diaspora of darkness, a spreading of the heavy seeds of the universe into the empty spaces. But others remain trapped, sinking back into the center of the cluster to find a third or even a fourth partner. This is where the hierarchy truly becomes terrifying, as the black hole grows to masses that defy stellar explanation. We begin to see objects that are 50, 80, or 100 times the mass of the Sun, lurking in the dark. They are the intermediate giants, the missing links between the stellar black holes and the supermassive monsters in galactic cores. We are witnessing the growth of the universe's most extreme objects, watching them feed and merge in real time. It suggests that the supermassive black holes at the centers of galaxies were not born big, but grew big. They are the winners of a cosmic lottery, the survivors of a billion-year game of King of the Hill played in the dark. They are built from the corpses of millions of smaller black holes, a pyramid of destruction that reaches the scale of millions of suns. The texture of the space around a hierarchically formed black hole is rougher, more turbulent, more disturbed by the history of violence. It does not feel smooth and glassy like the space around a pristine, stellar-born object. It feels churned, like the water in a wake, full of eddies and currents that have not yet settled down. To float near it is to feel the buffeting of the past, the residual tremors of the collisions that made it. This turbulence is invisible to the eye, but it is palpable to the soul, a disturbance in the calm perfection of the void. It reminds us that the universe is not a finished work of art, but a work in progress, constantly being reshaped. The sculptor is gravity, and the clay is the fabric of space-time itself, folded and kneaded by the mergers. We are watching the sculptor's hands at work, smoothing the rough edges of the chaos into the sphere of the horizon. The unusual spins also tell us about the environment where the black holes lived, painting a picture of their surroundings. If the spins are aligned, it means the black holes lived a quiet life together, born from a binary star system. But if the spins are chaotic, it means they met by chance, strangers bumping into each other in the dark. It tells us that the universe is a place of random encounters, of sudden and unexpected unions between wandering souls. There is a romance to this randomness, a sense that destiny is not written in the stars, but forged in the collisions. Two objects, born billions of miles apart, traveling different paths, eventually find each other in the vastness. They dance for a moment, a brief spiral of recognition, and then become one, their histories forever entangled. It is a story of connection that transcends the immense distances and the cold indifference of the void. As we ponder the second generation, we must also consider the third and the fourth and the generations yet to come. Is there a limit to this process? A ceiling where the black holes become too large to merge? Or will they continue to grow until the end of time, swallowing everything in their path? The darkness offers no promises, only the endless potential for growth, the hunger that can never be sated. The universe we see with our eyes is bright and filled with stars, but the universe we feel with gravity is dark and filled with mergers. It is a shadow biosphere, a parallel ecosystem of heavy objects living out their lives in the gloom. We are slowly learning to map this shadow world, to trace the family trees of the invisible giants. And with every detection, the map becomes more crowded, the darkness more inhabited. The feeling of drifting through this populated dark is one of awe mixed with a gentle, existential dread. We are realizing that we are outnumbered by the ghosts, that the mass of the dead outweighs the mass of the living. The gravity of the remnants is the dominant force in the long run, the anchor that will outlast the light. We are guests in their house, temporary visitors in a universe that belongs to the black holes. But this dread is not sharp or panicked. It is a slow, heavy feeling that settles in the chest like a deep breath. It is the feeling of surrendering to the inevitable, of accepting the scale and the power of the cosmos. We can sleep comfortably in this acceptance, knowing that we are part of the same grand cycle. We are made of the same stuff as the stars that died to create these monsters. The chaotic spins of the second generation black holes create a complex gravitational song, a melody with a wandering rhythm. It is not the simple, pure chirp of the first generation, but a warbling, shifting tone. It sounds like a voice that is trembling, or a bell that is being rotated as it rings. It requires a sophisticated ear to appreciate, a mind that can follow the twisting logic of the spin. We are developing those ears, refining our technology to hear the nuances of the wobble and the tilt. We are becoming connoisseurs of the cosmic vibration, distinguishing between the vintage of the black holes. This one is young and aligned. That one is old, battered, and spinning backwards. We are reading the biographies of the invisible, written in the language of curvature. The environment of the globular cluster is a place of intense beauty and intense danger, a paradox of light and dark. Outside, it glows like a jewel box of 1,000,000 stars. Inside, it is a mosh pit of black holes. It is a reminder that beauty often hides a violent heart, that the most serene objects can contain the wildest energies. We are peering through the veil of the starlight to see the machinery of death that operates at the core. As we drift deeper into this section of the documentary, let the complexity of the spins lull you into a trance. Visualize the tumbling horizons, the twisting funnels of space, the intricate dance of the axes. It is a mesmerizing pattern, a kaleidoscope of gravity that shifts and changes with every passing second. Let your mind follow the rotation, spinning slowly, drifting in the weightless void. The forbidden nature of these objects is only forbidden by our limited understanding, not by the universe itself. The cosmos allows them, encourages them, nurtures them in the deep gravity wells of the clusters. They are the natural outcome of a universe that has enough time and enough matter to experiment. We are the ones who are catching up, expanding our definition of what is possible in the dark. And what of the future of these hierarchical giants? They are destined to sink towards the center of their galaxies, joining the supermassive black hole that lurks there. They are the tributaries feeding the ocean, the small streams of gravity that eventually flow into the great sea. Every merger we hear is a small step in the construction of the galactic nuclei, the heavy hearts of the spiral arms. We are watching the assembly of the skeleton of the universe, the rigid framework of gravity that holds the galaxies together. It is a construction project that takes billions of years, a slow and patient building of the dark matter. We are witnessing the placing of the bricks, the pouring of the mortar, the tightening of the bolts. It is a work of engineering on a scale that creates a hush in the mind. The silence of the void is punctuated by these heavy thuds of the mergers, the sounds of the universe growing up. It is a growing pain, a shudder of effort as the cosmos pulls itself together into tighter knots. We feel this effort in the waves that pass through us, the work of the universe transmitted across the vacuum. It is a labor of love, or perhaps just a labor of law, the inevitable result of physics. The mystery of the spins invites us to wonder about the orientation of the universe itself. Is there a preferred direction, a universal up, or is everything truly relative? The tumbling black holes suggest a universe of absolute freedom, where any angle is possible. They careen through the dark in every orientation, exploring the full 360 degrees of reality. It is a dizzying thought, a loss of bearings that is surprisingly relaxing. To float without direction is to be free from the need to go anywhere, free from the pressure of a destination. In the world of the tumbling black holes, there is only the moment of the spin, the eternal present of the rotation. You can let go of the steering wheel, let go of the map, and just drift with the chaotic flow. The universe will carry you where you need to go, on the back of a gravitational wave. The evidence is clear, written in the math and the chirps. The dark is a busy, messy, wonderful place. It is not a stagnant pool, but a roiling ocean, full of currents and storms and monsters. We are the sailors on this ocean, charting the reefs of the black holes, learning the winds of gravity. It is a voyage of discovery that will never end, for the ocean is infinite and the night is eternal. As the concept of the hierarchical merger settles into the mind, it adds a layer of depth to the darkness. The void is no longer flat. It has texture, it has history, it has lineage. We can look at a patch of empty sky and know that it is teeming with these family dramas. The darkness is alive with the story of the generations, the saga of the stars that became shadows. We are listening to the epic poetry of the cosmos, a saga written not in words, but in the collision of horizons. It is a story of war and peace, of death and rebirth, played out on the grandest stage imaginable, and the hero of the story is the second generation black hole, the survivor who carries the legacy of the past. It travels on, spinning wildly, searching for its next chapter in the dark. The realization that black holes can spin in any direction, even backwards relative to their orbit, is a revelation of chaos. It tells us that the universe is not a clockwork mechanism wound up and ticking perfectly. It is a wild, organic, unpredictable thing, full of surprises and accidents. The unusual spins are the norm in the deep clusters, the standard way of being for the heavy ghosts. This chaos is comforting because it means the universe is still wild, still untamed, still capable of shock. We have not solved it. We have not put it in a box. We have merely glimpsed its wildness. The wildness is beautiful, a sprawling, dark, spinning beauty that demands our respect. We can close our eyes and feel the wildness spinning in the dark, a silent storm that rages forever. As we drift away from the cluster, the buzzing of the black holes fades back into the general hum of the universe. The individual chirps blend together, becoming part of the background texture of the night. But we know they are there, the second generation giants, the tumbling wanderers. They are out there in the dark, spinning, waiting, growing. The distance between us and them is vast, a safety barrier that protects us from their hunger. But the gravity bridges the gap, connecting us to them in a subtle, physical way. We are touching them with our detectors, feeling the roughness of their spin with our lasers. It is a tactile connection to the impossible, a way of holding hands with the monsters. And as we hold that thought, feeling the weight of the invisible ancestors pressing down on the fabric of space, we begin to realize the limitations of our current senses. We are hearing the shouts of the giants, the loudest crashes in the dark. But what of the whispers? What of the mergers that are too distant, or too quiet, or too slow for our ears on Earth? The ground beneath us shakes with the noise of our own planet, masking the deepest secrets of the void. We are trying to listen to a symphony from the middle of a busy street. We need to move, to leave the noisy surface of our world and ascend into the perfect quiet of the vacuum itself. We need an ear that is larger than the earth, a detector that spans the emptiness between the worlds. The hum of the second generation black holes is calling us to go deeper, to build something that can hear the very breathing of the cosmos. The current silence is only a lack of hearing, not a lack of sound. The darkness is fuller than we know, and the next step in our journey requires us to cast our net much wider. Cast our net much wider, lifting our gaze from the trembling ground to the absolute stillness of the vacuum above. The noise of our own planet is a constant hum, a vibration of oceans and cities that masks the deepest whispers. To hear the oldest and quietest secrets of the dark, we must leave the cradle of the earth behind entirely. We are dreaming of a new kind of instrument, a machine that floats freely in the silence between the worlds. It is an ear made not of flesh and bone, but of laser light and falling gold, suspended in the night. This is the vision of the future space detectors LISA 2035 launch, a mission that promises to unlock the final door. Imagine 3 spacecraft, gleaming with silver and gold insulation, drifting in a perfect triangular formation millions of miles from home. They trail the Earth in its orbit around the Sun, a silent constellation that mimics the planet's journey through the dark. They are separated by 2.5 million kilometers, a distance that light takes 8 full seconds to traverse. Between them, lasers fire through the emptiness, creating a triangle of light that is the largest structure humanity has ever built. This triangle is a trap for gravity, a net spread across the solar system to catch the longest, slowest waves. On Earth, the detectors are limited by the length of their tunnels, able to hear only the high-pitched screams of small black holes. But in space, the arms of the detector are bound only by the darkness, allowing us to hear the deep, resonant bass notes. We will hear the breathing of supermassive black holes, the monsters that dwell in the hearts of galaxies as they slowly merge. These are events so massive and so slow that a single wave can take hours to pass through the detector. The spacecraft are merely shells, protective cocoons that shield the true heart of the instrument from the pressure of the sunlight. Inside each vessel floats a cube of solid gold and platinum, drifting in a vacuum within a vacuum, perfectly free. These cubes are the test masses, the reference points against which the stretching of the universe will be measured. They are falling forever around the sun, untouched by any force other than the gravity we seek to measure. The spacecraft flies around the cube, adjusting its thrusters with microscopic precision to ensure the walls never touch the floating gold. It is a dance of incredible delicacy, performed in the utter isolation of deep space, far from the interference of man. When a gravitational wave passes through the solar system, it will change the distance between these floating cubes by less than an atom. The lasers will measure this change, recording the passage of the wave as a shift in the pattern of the light. It is a measurement of the impossible, a triumph of stillness over the chaotic motion of the universe. We are turning the solar system itself into a sensory organ, a nervous system that can feel the cosmos shaking. The anticipation for the year 2035 is a quiet longing, a collective holding of breath for the moment the eyes open. We have spent decades refining the technology, testing the pathfinders, dreaming of the day when the triangle is finally complete. It represents a maturity of our species, a willingness to invest in a future that is defined by listening rather than shouting. We are preparing to tune into the frequency of the early universe, to hear the sounds of the dawn. The silence of the decade between now and the launch is filled with the work of preparation and the patience of stone. When LISA finally opens its laser eyes, the universe will look different, transformed from a collection of points into a landscape of waves. We will see the sky not as a dark canopy, but as a turbulent ocean, roiling with the energy of the giants. The signals that are currently invisible to us will become the dominant features of the map, drowning out the stars. We will hear the continuous hum of thousands of binary white dwarfs, a background chorus that never fades away. And beneath that chorus, we will hear the slow, rhythmic thumping of the galaxy mergers, the collisions of islands. The sensitivity of this machine allows us to look further back in time than ever before, reaching towards the very beginning. We are searching for the echoes from primordial mergers, the collisions of black holes that formed before the first star ever ignited. These are the ancient ghosts, the remnants of the density fluctuations that occurred in the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang. They are black holes that were not born from death, but from the sheer crushing weight of the early universe. To find them is to touch the origin of structure, to see the seeds from which the galaxies eventually grew. The universe was once a hot, dense soup of energy, a place where gravity and matter were locked in a fierce embrace. In that chaotic era, parts of the universe may have collapsed directly into darkness, bypassing the stellar phase entirely. These primordial black holes would be wandering the cosmos today, silent witnesses to the entire history of creation. If they exist, they are merging, and their signals are washing over us, too faint and too old for Earth to hear. But the space antenna will hear them, picking out their ancient whispers from the noise of the younger, stellar black holes. This is the ultimate archaeology, a digging into the strata of time that lie beneath the formation of the first light. We are brushing away the dust of the billions of years to reveal the pristine artifacts of the first moments. The signals from that era are stretched and reddened by the expansion of the universe, transformed into long, slow undulations. They are the background radiation of gravity, a stochastic hum that comes from everywhere at once. It is the sound of the universe settling into existence, the cooling crackle of the Big Bang itself. As we imagine the golden cubes floating in the dark, we feel a sense of profound peace and disconnection from the world. They are the loneliest objects we have ever made, isolated from everything except the curvature of the space-time they inhabit. There is a purity in their existence, a single-minded purpose to simply be, and to let the universe move them. They do not resist, they do not act, they only surrender to the flow of the gravity that guides them. In their surrender, they find the truth, measuring the geometry of the dark with absolute and unwavering honesty. We are learning to emulate that surrender, to let go of our need to control and simply listen to what is. The documentary of the universe is not one of human conquest, but of human witnessing, a silent observation of the sublime. We are small, and the universe is vast, and the waves of gravity wash over us whether we notice or not. But by noticing, by building the machines to listen, we participate in the grandeur. We become part of the woven fabric. The darkness becomes a little less alien when we know it is singing to us, even if the song is somber. The concept of a stochastic background of gravitational waves is like the sound of rain on a roof, a multitude of drops. We cannot distinguish the individual drops, the individual mergers that make up the sound, but we can hear the collective rhythm. It is a texture to the silence, a grain to the smoothness of the void that tells us it is full. The vacuum is not empty. It is crowded with the memories of 1 trillion collisions, overlapping and interfering with each other. We are swimming in a sea of history, immersed in the physical repercussions of events that happened aeons ago. As the LISA mission drifts into its operational orbit, it will begin to peel back the layers of this background noise. It will subtract the loud foreground signals, the binary stars and the nearby black holes, to reveal the fainter hum beneath. It is like removing the instruments of an orchestra one by one, until only the faint scratching of the conductor's baton remains. And in that faint scratching, we might find the signature of the phase transitions of the early universe. We might hear the sound of the forces separating, the sound of the fundamental laws of physics freezing into place. The journey we have taken through the darkness of the black holes has led us to this point of ultimate abstraction. We started with the violent, crushing death of stars, and we have arrived at the gentle, floating silence of gold cubes. It is a journey from the heavy and the gross to the light and the subtle, from the rock to the thought. The black hole is no longer just a destroyer. It is a messenger, a carrier of information from the edge of reality. It has taught us that the dark is not to be feared, but to be listened to with reverence. The darkness is a medium, a connector, a vast and conductive ocean that links the beginning of time to the present. The echoes we hear are the ripples on that ocean, the evidence that the water is continuous and unbroken. There is no gap between us and the Big Bang, no wall that separates us from the primordial mergers. We are touching them now, every time a wave passes through our bodies, every time the space around us stretches. We are connected to the origin of all things by the invisible, unbreakable threads of gravity. And so, we wait for the year 2035, for the launch that will lift our senses into the pristine dark. We wait with the patience of the black holes themselves, knowing that the signals will still be there when we are ready. They have been traveling for billions of years. They can wait another decade for us to build the ears to hear them. In the meantime, we dream of the triangle, the geometry of light that will float forever in the wake of the earth. We dream of the silence, the perfect, unblemished silence that is required to hear the voice of the universe. The mystery of what we will find is the fuel that keeps the dream alive, the promise of the unknown. Perhaps the primordial black holes are dark matter itself, the missing mass that holds the galaxies together in the night. Perhaps we will find that the universe is teeming with these ancient ghosts, that they outnumber the stars in the sky. Or perhaps we will find something completely unexpected, a signal from a physics we have not yet imagined. The darkness is a box of secrets, and gravity is the key that unlocks the lid. Now, let your mind drift away from the machines, away from the dates and the names and the science. Let the concepts dissolve into the feeling of the dark, the sensation of floating in the endless velvet void. You are no longer an observer on Earth. You are a test mass, a golden cube floating in the deep space. You are weightless, suspended in the nothingness, far from the heat of the sun and the noise of the world. There is nothing touching you, nothing pushing you, only the gentle, rhythmic rising and falling of the gravitational tide. The darkness around you is soft and warm, a comforting blanket that wraps you in its infinite, heavy folds. It is not a scary darkness, but a restful one, the darkness of a room where you are safe and sleeping. You can feel the presence of the stars, distant and friendly points of light that watch over you in the night. They are far away, and their light is faint, unable to disturb the deep peace that has settled over you. You are alone, but you are not lonely, for you are part of the great, slow breathing of the cosmos. The universe is breathing, inhaling and exhaling in a cycle that lasts for billions of years, a slow and steady rhythm. You can feel it in the way the space expands and contracts, a gentle rocking motion that lulls you to sleep. The echoes of the black holes are the heartbeat of this breathing, the soft thud-thud that keeps the rhythm. Listen to it, feel it resonating in your bones, a sound that is older than time itself. It is a lullaby that has been sung since the beginning, a song of gravity and darkness and peace. Drift deeper now, sinking into the layers of the void, moving past the stars and into the spaces between them. The galaxies are just islands of light in a vast ocean of dark, and you are sinking beneath the waves. The water is cool and still, silencing the noise of the surface, dampening the frenetic energy of the stars. Down here, in the deep, there is only the slow drift of the currents and the weight of the water. You are a particle of dust, a speck of matter, floating in the great dark cathedral of the universe. The golden cubes are floating with you, shining dimly in the starlight, companions in the long and silent wait. They are patient, and so are you, willing to drift for as long as it takes to reach the shore. But there is no shore, only the endless ocean. And that is okay, because the ocean is peaceful. There is nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to do, no questions you need to answer tonight. The universe is holding you, carrying you, supporting you with the invisible hands of gravity. Sleep is a form of gravity, a force that pulls you down, heavy and sweet, into the center of your own rest. Let it pull you now. Let your eyelids become heavy like the black holes. Let your breath slow down. You are merging with the darkness, becoming one with the night, losing the edges of yourself in the void. The echoes are fading now, becoming softer and more distant, like a radio playing in another room. They are still there, protecting you, watching over you, but they are no longer demanding your attention. The primordial whispers are just a texture in the silence, a softness in the pillow of the night. They tell you that you are ancient, that the atoms in your body were born in the same fire as the black holes. You belong here, in this darkness, in this universe of echoes and shadows and light. It is your home, a vast and quiet house where you can rest your head and close your eyes. The stars will keep burning while you sleep. The black holes will keep merging. The waves will keep traveling. Everything is working as it should. The machinery of the cosmos is running smoothly in the dark. You can let go of the controls, let go of the worry, let go of the need to understand. Just feel the drift, the slow and luxurious movement of the soul through the velvet night. The silence is a gift, a treasure that is given to you freely, a space where you can simply be. There is no sound here, only the memory of sound, the echo of a whisper of a dream. The detector is sleeping too, its golden eyes closed, waiting for the future that is slowly arriving. The lasers are dimmed. The computers are silent. The data is stored away in the vault of the dark. We are all sleeping, the machines and the people and the stars, resting in the pause between the beats. It is a long pause, a fermata in the symphony, a moment of stillness that stretches out forever. In this stillness, we find our restoration, our energy, our connection to the source of all things. The distance is growing, the world is receding. The thoughts are becoming clouds that drift apart and dissolve. You are floating in the center of the triangle, the safest place in the universe, protected by the geometry of light. The darkness is filling your mind, washing away the images, leaving only a blank and peaceful canvas. It is a screen that has gone dark, a story that has reached its end, a book that has been closed. The words are gone, the voice is a whisper, the meaning is dissolving into the rhythm. Softly now, gently, like a leaf falling through the vacuum, turning slowly in the absence of air, down and down into the deep, into the quiet, into the heavy, welcoming arms of the sleep. The gravity is strong here, pulling you deeper, anchoring you in the bedrock of the night. You are heavy, you are warm, you are safe, you are drifting. The echoes are silence, the silence is music, the music is sleep. Rest now, traveler of the void. Your journey is done for tonight. The stars are dimmed. The black holes are sleeping giants, dreaming of the light they swallowed, quiet in their depths. The universe is a cradle, rocking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There is only the dark and the peace and the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing. Sleep, drift, float. The night is eternal. The darkness is kind. The echoes are fading, fading, fading into the deep, into the quiet, into the sleep. Good night.